think some directors have a hard time distancing themselves sometimes from their project, and I think that can be a problem, because I think part of being a director is having perspective. I think being able to take a couple steps back and it's when you're not able to consider other people that it becomes a problem. And I think filmmaking to me has always been a collaborative effort. A lot of people work on a film to get it done, though the director may well be the maestro. I think that it's important for them to entertain people's comments and concerns with the film, especially when you're a producer on the project and you are basically the liaison between your investment team and your filmmaking team. I mean, I have obligations as a producer that I need to meet that have been relayed to my filmmaker. If my filmmaker, and this is before we ever set out, and so there are certain terms and conditions that we need to meet. If my filmmaker refuses to meet these terms and conditions that they're negotiated on at the outset, I feel like they've lost their perspective, and they're refusing to acknowledge the fact that someone else is taking a risk on them. And it's not always in that. I mean, that's just like a very specific example, but it's things of that nature. I think it's not being able to evaluate that, like, it took something to get here, and you have an obligation. Yeah. I don't personally think it's a good idea to bring an agent in unless they've helped you with your financing at the outset. I don't think it's good to bring an agent in until you're done with your film, because I think it's important that they have a passion for the film and they try to sell you on why they think they're the best person for the project. The thing is let's say another person is making a movie similar to Mars, and now I've brought in William Morris at this stage of the game. It's more of an incentive at that point for William Morris to go find that other movie. And I'm using William Morris generally. They're great people. It would be advantageous for them to go find the other Mars and sign that other Mars, because they're taking out the competition at that point. Like, they have now two of the films that would have competed with each other under their slate now, and they'll push the one they want to. There is no guarantee for sale for me now as them repping my film. I think the misconception is, like, if they're not behind it and they don't like the film in the end, and you've signed with them at the beginning, you're stuck with them. And the thing about pre-sales is like, it's a great way for them to sort of lowball you at that point, because they are taking a risk and taking on their territory and requiring delivery, et cetera, et cetera. But I think that, they're in that position where they don't have to offer you too much. So if you're like with Kelly, for example, we can finance her next film entirely through pre-sales, but we're going to get lowballed and we're going to lose half the world in doing it. And we don't feel like that's really serving our purpose. We think that we can make a great film and we could sell to those territories for twice as much as they would have offered us for pre-sales at this point. I mean, they're a new company. We have just as much to lose as they have to lose and gain, I guess. I guess they announced themselves at Sundance this year, but David Finkel saw the film in Cannes this year and sort of was persistent. And we kind of immediately dismissed it as this new outfit that really didn't have anything, and then kept persisting and we were involving him in the negotiations and would always counter stronger. But more importantly, he got on board with Kelly in a way that I think a lot of distributors forget. It's Kelly, like any filmmaker, is very precious about her work, and she wants it to, however it's going to get out in the world, she wants that to ultimately be dictated by her. Like, when it comes down to trailer and artwork, like, we needed to make sure that we, the film, had final approval over it. And I'll tell you, no distributor is going to give that to you. But they did. They were willing to work with Kelly because they knew that this film could be something, and they've continued to do that. And we had, for the domestic deal, we negotiated on our own. For international, we brought in Memento Films to do international sales. So we were already selling other territories at that point. Domestic was the only one that was left hanging. But Oscope so far has been pretty great. We'll see. We're scheduled to release here in New York on December 10th. And we'll see how it goes. But they gave us a very fair deal, and that's all I can ask for a brand new company. We weren't expecting this huge check or anything like that. They were very fair with this, and they've involved us in every step of the way, which is a hard thing to get from a distributor. And so far they've been
banking on you guys? Like, are they only working on you right now?
It's I like to think so, but it's sort of like I'm sure every filmmaker likes to think that that I'm only working with them too. It's just something you just don't talk about, I think that it's important to feel like it's a monogamous relationship, but you know that there's other things. I know that we're the only narrative film that they've taken on so far. So for us, them pushing Michelle, like it's not a diluted interest in that category or with that PR company for actors and actresses. They've primarily so far only focused on docs, and that's one of the reasons on our side that was like a pro for our side. We knew that they would be much more of an effort to push this movie as their narrative feature for the year.
Are you asking a question?
Yeah. I was just like, I hate to make personal.
I mean, the director has a lot of say on this, and for Spencer's movie, it was important that he worked with David Fabella, who's an up-and-coming editor out of Austin. Kelly and Joe cut the movies themselves, and I don't think that they'll ever deviate from that. We bring on, I have with Joe, I'll have consultant editors come in and review the cut, and we'll discuss it, and that's primarily for perspective and to just get another voice from somebody in that position. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't have an editor on staff or anyone that I'm necessarily keeping in queue to work on the next project. I think it's a project to project sort of assessment. Absolutely right. I mean, with Kelly, I'm a little less concerned about it because Kelly teaches filmmaking. She understands that perspective, and I think she has it. And if you've seen any of Kelly's work, I mean, her job, I feel like Kelly understands the less is more sort of mentality. I think with Joe, Joe has that understanding. What's interesting about Joe is Joe shoots and cuts as he goes. I will literally get an assemble of a movie within 24 hours of principal photography being over because he's been cutting the entire time. But Joe's a filmmaker that works in a largely improvised environment, so he's able to do that. But we'll bring in and consult with other editors whenever we're sort of nearing our final cut with Joe. And I think Joe's open to that, and it's been helpful to do in the past. And we do screen our films quite a bit for people to get their comments, and I think that's important to do too with audiences, not just people at home on a DVD. Have screenings with groups of people because it plays differently in groups, so it's an important thing to do for sure. But yeah, it's terrifying, of course. Yeah, it's always stressful, especially when it's 8 months later and you're like, are we ever going to come to an end? But again, it's all about putting the faith in your filmmaker and ultimately following through with what you signed up for. If we insist on bringing in an editor, whether it's a consulting editor, whether it's an editor to just doctor the cut, I think that they've always been open to it because sort of look at it like an insurance policy. I mean, what do they have to lose? Where I'm not saying that whatever this person does or comments on or anything like that is the word. Let's just give them a shot and see what it is. And I mean, you have to be gentle about it because it's a blow to their ego, at a certain point, and I think it's about how you navigate that conversation. You very much want to involve them, make it feel like that it's constructive, and ultimately it's going to be better for them as well. If you really have faith in your filmmaker and you try to find $12 million or whatever to work with this filmmaker and it's their first time feature, there is going to be all sorts of, red tape all over that. There is going to be points in it that you're going to cave into that you're ultimately not going to give your filmmaker the resources they need to make a great film. But if you're able to successfully do it on a low budget, they will have the opportunity at that point as a tried and true filmmaker to maybe make the next film they want that you'll take gradual steps forward. And that's exactly what I do with every one of my filmmakers is that every film we take a couple steps forward. We try to figure out, all right, we want to keep our control. We learned this in the last one. We can up this area and everything like that. And I think that it's got to be a gradual build. I never wanted to start high, fast, and furious. I think that I wanted to be able to make my mistakes and learn from my mistakes, and ultimately validate my filmmakers in a way, and start to we can bring in more money and say, look, you can take a couple steps back as an investor because we've done this before. We've done this on the cheap. We know what we're doing, and we can keep building that. And so far that's been effective and it's worked. It's got to be a gradual thing. No, it can't be rushed. And I didn't want to bite off more than I could chew at the outset.
So please thank Anish for coming to talk to us.
Thank you all.